Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines. We have on the show Dr. Bill Cassidy. He's currently a Louisiana state senator, and he's running for the United States Congress. Dr. Cassidy is going to talk to us about the issues that are facing our nation, healthcare problems, the war, and all the other issues that face us. He's also going to discuss the recent legislative session here in Louisiana. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Dr. Bill Cassidy.
We have an offer that'll have you smiling from ear to ear. Right now, new Cox customers can receive a home phone line plus free installation, call waiting, caller ID, and much more for only $9.99 a month for 6 months.
It's a happy day.
Oh, happy day.
My cars are clear.
The picture is beautiful, thanks to Cox Advanced Fiber. It's here
In Louisiana.
My internet's faster.
thanks to Cox.
I'm using it.
We're using it.
Cox Advanced Fiber. I love it.
Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have on the show today State Senator Bill Cassidy. He is currently a state senator, but he's running for the United States House. Bill, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Locke.
Appreciate it. Tell folks a little bit about yourself. You're state senator, but you've been a medical doctor for a lot longer.
Well, I could go back further. Went to Terra High School, graduated in 1975. We won state championships. I still remember that.
Long time ago.
A long time ago. But the other people can feel good because Broadmoor beat us by 40 points, and so did Glenos. So, having said that, yes, I work with LSU Med School. I'm a physician. I've been teaching medical students and residents for about 20 years here in Baton Rouge. And 2 years ago, ran to take Jay Darden's place, serving in that state senate.
He's a great state senator and currently Secretary of State.
Yeah, great guy. He's been a great model, and I'll call him sometimes and say, Jay, what do you think about this? And he's very helpful.
And why did you run for the state senate?
Yeah. As lawyers and physicians, we can serve people one at a time, and it's incredibly gratifying. But sometimes you want to do something more than one person at a time. I can see that tendency because I do these public health programs. We vaccinated 36,000 school children against hepatitis B. I saw that I enjoyed doing things that were public policy as well as one at a time.
But you know, you didn't talk it though, Bill. You also, like you say, you dove in and you've headed up stuff for years, taking care of those kids with the vaccines, free dental and health care. I mean, health care is a big issue for you.
Well, health care is a big issue for our community.
For everywhere right now, everybody.
And so I think we both have a desire to serve folks, and health care has allowed that, but state senate allows us to do it on a different level.
Like you said, policy.
Yes.
Because you're writing the laws, are helping anyway.
Yes.
Explain to the folks what's happened over the last 2 years as it relates to the whole health care issue.
You know, Hurricane Katrina obviously did affect our state and probably should affect our state more. So what we have now are folks that are insured, paying more money for their premiums and more for their copay.
Probably getting a whole lot less, frankly.
And getting less. And then we have folks on public assistance, Medicaid or Medicare, and the Veterans Administration, which is a good thing.
So taken care of by the federal government.
Exactly. But if you're in that middle gap, you earn too much to qualify for Medicaid, but not enough to afford insurance.
Because it's crazy.
It's crazy. You're the one who's stuck. Now, before the storm, most of our money to treat these folks went to New Orleans. New Orleans had most of the population. Since the storm, that population has spread out across South Louisiana, but the crazy thing is the money still goes there.
To New Orleans.
To New Orleans. It's like Katrina never happened. And so we have as many uninsured in this region as they do there. They will receive $300 million to treat the uninsured. Our regional treatment will receive $100 million. There's $200 million difference, and we have the same number of uninsured.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. If you are the working uninsured in our region, our current policy sticks it to you in a bad way.
How many folks are we talking about just in the state of Louisiana?
Oh my gosh, it's about 25% of our population. So in this region, which is East Baton Rouge Parish and the parishes that touch it, There's about 92,000 to 100,000 uninsured.
And the population of the state's about 3 million or so, isn't it?
So it's about 3 million, 25% of that, so roughly 800,000 people.
A lot of folks. And then on a national-wide scale, it's millions and millions of folks.
It is. And so clearly, on a national and state level, big issue that we're going to have to address.
Well, let's talk about the fact that you're running for the United States Congress. Tell the folks why.
It's just kind of the same instinct that led me to run for state senate. Our country has problems. And so we've got wars, we've got recession, we've got $4 a gallon gasoline, we've got unaffordable health care, and frankly, I think I have ideas. Now, if you think you have ideas in our country and you think you can serve our country, then I think we as Americans are called to serve. And this is a way I can serve.
And I actually was watching a video that you had done, a television interview, I think it was your announcement, and you indicated, how can we do anything less when we've got young men and women heading over to fight and putting their lives in harm's way. It's pretty amazing.
Folks say, oh my gosh, you got to commute to Washington, you won't see your family 3 days a week. So in my church, there's this guy who went to Iraq, and he's got a 4-year-old who is in my Sunday school class. For a year, he didn't see his 4-year-old to serve our country. And then we complain because we have to commute.
Or go to jury duty.
Or go to jury duty. My wife has been incredibly supportive from the get-go. My son went from being against to being neutral to now being all for it. My daughters are okay with it. So once my family was okay, we as a family decided that this is what we would do.
And you're going to be running for the seat that Mr. Cassidy just won. He's only going to have been there for 4 or 5 months when this election comes up, correct?
Correct.
Now the election is when?
The election, the Republican primary will be September the 3rd. Runoff, there is one, October the 3rd. And then the general election will be the first week of November.
Now you were actually approached to run when the first election took place.
I've been approached 3 times actually. The first 2 times, again, we had to work through our family issues and then work through them a little bit more seriously. And finally, when the 3rd time folks called, that's when we had kind of worked through enough of that we as a group could say yes.
Well, and I noticed you kind of have these big principles that guide you. One is faith and family. And then you had the other issues that guide you, or the values that guide you. Tell the folks what they are.
Well, I think that they're values that people in this district like. That smaller government is better government. That lower taxes are better taxes. That if it comes to a choice between individual rights and freedoms and big government, I choose you. I choose the individual rights. And lastly, that life must be preserved. That we have to hold it precious and sacred.
Now, you're Republican, correct?
I am.
And you would be going to a House that's controlled by Democrats.
And therein lies the opportunity. Think about it.
Because most folks are going to say, you're crazy.
Think about it, though. Because if you go to where, if I was a Democrat and they've got a majority, they've got their ideas, they've got their established policy leaders, frankly, you got to do what they tell you to do. You go to a party that is probably going to suffer losses.
And seems in quite disarray right now.
And seems in disarray. There's the opportunity. If we have ideas, I say we, because frankly I think Louisiana is doing better than DC right now. If we have ideas that we can take there, and they look around and say, well, here's somebody who knows something and who's treated the uninsured for 20 years, who has his children in public schools and knows what the public school issues are, whose wife is a surgeon but who retired to help care for those children, so understands the needs of working moms, then I think that's the opportunity to bring those ideas into play.
And have you communicated with the Republican leadership at all?
Well, there's several levels of Republican leadership. Governor Jindal has effectively, officially endorsed us.
Meaning your campaign?
Our campaign.
Bill Cassidy.
Bill Cassidy for Congress. The local representatives and many of the local council folks who are Republicans have endorsed us. That's good. On a national level, frankly, they're going to look to see what the governor does. And if the governor has endorsed us, as he has, and sends that signal, we expect that on a national level they will endorse us as well.
Now, of course, you need more votes than just Republicans. So what do you say to the Democratic folks?
You know, it's interesting.
Because you're not a typical Republican, frankly, when I look at your life and how you've poured it into other folks.
And like that, you're saying something about Republicans.
I don't mean to make that negative, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, my issues, it's kind of funny because my issues are Democratic issues. They are health,
right, that's my point.
Education, service to community. But my solutions, if you will, are conservative solutions.
Let's talk about that on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith Legal Lines. Dr. Bill Cassidy will be right back.
we have an offer that'll have you smiling from ear to ear. Right now, new Cox customers can receive a home phone line plus free installation, call waiting, caller ID, and much more for only $9.99 a month for 6 months.
It's a happy day.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, very pleased to have on the show today Dr. Bill Cassidy. He is a Louisiana State Senator, and he's running for the United States Congress. Again, Doctor, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Bill, we were talking about the fact that the issues that the nation faces are issues that everyone faces, every individual faces. The Democrats seem to be talking to the issues maybe more effectively than Republicans. What do you say to these issues, and what specifically are you going to do if you get elected?
Well, a couple things. One, no one does anything by themselves. You do it as
Good
part
point.
of a team, as part of a coalition. Now, in Washington, you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. But on the other hand, I think I have the ability to work on issues across aisle, because my knowledge base on things like education and healthcare.
Well, you have credibility as the bottom line.
Yeah, and I am willing to cross that party line to work with someone who knows something more than me or can help a position I'm on. So secondly, you form coalitions here. So I call up you, or I call up someone else who knows more about an issue than me, and I say, you help me on this. And then I don't claim to know everything, but I know folks who know more than me on other topics, and they'll bring those ideas to me. For example, good friends of mine are involved in oil and gas. One of the big things is, how do we address $4 a gallon gasoline?
Big issue.
Big issue.
Not going anywhere either.
And so I call up my friends who say, and I say, what's the problem with offshore drilling? And they say those problems date back to 20 and 30 years ago, when drilling techniques were not as good as now. If you look at the technology now with directional drilling once you're below the surface and the ability to go in multiple directions from one hole, the potential for pollution is far lessened, and the environmental impact far lessened. Frankly, as a long-term solution to oil dependency and gasoline prices, we need to drill offshore. We need to open up Anwar. The amount of territory affected by that with current techniques is far less. Now, that's a medium to long-term solution.
Doesn't fix the problem right now, does it?
Doesn't fix the problem right now. There are some issues you can do now, though. For example, we're paying through the nose for ethanol derived from corn.
Right.
Now, we've got a law that 10% of gasoline has to have ethanol in it. There is Brazilian ethanol, which we tax at 54 cents a gallon to bring into this country. So it doesn't compete with corn. Now, the corn guys are doing great.
But our grocery bills are going up too because of that.
And our grocery bills are going up too. So if you remove that 54% tariff on that Brazilian ethanol, bring that in instead at its cost, you automatically have an immediate impact.
Makes sense.
Upon what the price of gasoline at the pump is.
And Brazil doesn't hate us.
And Brazil doesn't hate us. In fact, it is in our advantage to, they buy lots of
That's
our
right.
goods. And so we want to encourage that trade, because they in turn, we are an export state. Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Port of Louisiana, three of the largest ports in the nation. We want to encourage trade from this state because it puts our longshoremen, our barge operators, and by the way, all those jobs have good benefits. Those people make good working wages. We want to put those people maximally to work.
How do you deal with the financial, or what do you see as being a way to deal with the financial problems that we're having right now?
The credit crunch is something, but we've got to separate the credit crunch into two parties. There are the people who are speculating on property, hoping to flip it to immediately get money back. Then there are people who are just hardworking people.
Watching their house go down in value.
Watching their house go down in value. So I think any federal policy has to recognize the speculators were speculating, they're on their own. On the other hand, the folks who were really trying to do it right by the family do need some assistance.
And so are you, I guess, in support of some type of package to help folks in that dilemma?
I am.
All right. What about the other issues that are facing the nation right now?
Well, I think that we've got a big infrastructure need, huge infrastructure need. Levees just failed in the upper Mississippi.
So we just got, what, several million more dollars for New Orleans
Yes.
from the federal level.
And obviously our interstate system is breaking down. one good thing we've done on a state level, we just put $100 million to expand the I-10, I-12 going from downtown Baton Rouge to Juban Road.
Excellent.
And that's going to be a tremendous thing benefiting people going all the way over to the Florida parishes. We need more investment in infrastructure. Again, thinking not so much tomorrow, but thinking 5, 10, and 20 years down the road.
What do you see specifically as how to deal with the health care problems nationwide?
First thing, thinking first in this state, we've got to use the money that we have more wisely. The state of Louisiana is about to build a $1.2 billion hospital in New Orleans,
right,
which is going to take 40 to 50% of the money we use for the uninsured and spend it in an area of the state with 20% of the population.
That does not make sense.
It does not make sense.
Why are they doing that? What is the rationalization?
The rationalization is that New Orleans was hit by a hurricane, so we've got economic development needs in New Orleans. And I say to them, wait a second, we're going to, on the backs of the people who are most unfortunate, fund economic development in New Orleans. We shouldn't penalize the people who are most vulnerable to support a city which frankly has other problems besides lack of public money.
So, as I understand it, you've got a proposition that or a bill that you're going to push?
Well, we pushed the bill and it was killed by, frankly, LSU, Health Medical School. They didn't want that. They want their big hospital. But it would have distributed the money for the uninsured across the state where the uninsured live.
So based on population?
Based on population of uninsured.
Would that have gotten Baton Rouge a ton more money?
No, actually, we get about as much as we should have gotten. Who would have won? It would have been Livingston going east. They would have gotten $22 million for those folks over there. Lafayette would have gotten 20 to 25 million more. Lake Charles, 20 to 25 million more. Baton Rouge would have gotten about 8 million more, which is not that much.
What do you do on the national level?
Well, okay, so first you use the money that's out there more wisely. That's
on the state local level.
On the state and local level.
Okay.
But secondly, we've got to change our tax policy. Now, Locke, you and I have been blessed financially. We both do reasonably well. We get a 40% tax break on, when we buy health insurance and it's with pre-tax dollars, we get a 40% tax break.
In other words, because it's part of our employment package.
Exactly. And I'm not paying tax on that, so because I'm not paying tax on it, with everything you put together, I'm saving 40% of the cost of the health insurance. If you take somebody who's earning less, who only pays 10% tax, they're only getting a 10% tax break. The crazy thing is, the middle income people who need it most are getting the least incentive to purchase private insurance. We need to change that so that the people who are middle income get the same sort of incentive to purchase insurance as people who make more money.
You know, and I'm sitting here thinking it's really interesting because the folks who don't have insurance, bottom line is they're going to get care somewhere. It won't be as high, they may be more ill, but when it's all said and done, that's costing taxes. Tax dollars are used, and that means taxes are going to continue to go up. We'll talk about that on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith Legal Lines, and Dr. Bill Cassidy will be right back.
Oh, happy day!
My cars are clear.
The picture is beautiful, thanks to Cox. Advanced fiber. It's here.
In Louisiana.
My internet's faster.
Thanks to Cox. I'm using it.
We're using it.
Cox Advanced Fiber. I love it.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, pleased to have on the show Dr. Bill Cassidy. He's a Louisiana State Senator. He's running for the United States Congress. Again, Bill, thanks for being with us today. We were talking about the big federal issues, and we were talking about how health care is such a big problem, not only on a state and local level, but on a federal level. Yes. How are we going to fix that?
Well, a couple things. We have to recognize that even though everybody has health care, they may be getting it through the emergency room. That's an inefficient way to do it.
And expensive.
And expensive, and doesn't provide long-term care. So someone with high blood pressure or diabetes doesn't need to go in every 6 months to get their prescriptions filled, but with no care in between. They need to go in and say, well, listen, your blood sugar is a little high, so let's adjust that medicine. Oh, your blood pressure is a little higher, so let's adjust that medicine.
Proactive.
Be proactive. Our current system where you're uninsured, you go to the emergency room, is not proactive. it's not even reactive. It's just
Putting out the fires, huh?
put out a fire. The other thing is when someone goes there, someone pays for it, and it's the people who do have private insurance. We pay extra for our private insurance to subsidize the care for the folks who have no insurance at all.
That's right.
So part of the inflation in healthcare premium is to subsidize the care of the uninsured. It goes back to using the money we have wisely. Again, if we elect to put 50% of our money for the uninsured in Louisiana, in New Orleans, which has 20% of the people, then that means that businesses and individuals in the rest of South Louisiana
They're going to bear the cost.
are going to bear the cost.
It's not a fit. And truly, really what we're saying is we are our brother's keeper.
Yes.
Whether we like it or not, we need to take care of these folks because it's going to come out of you one way or the other. You'd hope you're doing it out of genuine motivation, but the bottom line is you're going to pay one way or the other, and you can do it in a more efficiently and effective way.
And Locke, we are a fundamentally moral society, and we're not going to allow someone who is our neighbor. And where I go to church, there are people who are uninsured at the chapel on the campus, for example, but wherever you go and wherever any of our listeners go, about 5 to 10% of those people at least are uninsured. We are going to care.
So it's our neighbors,
It's our neighbors.
our friends.
We are going to care for those folks. It is wise public policy to care for them in the way in which you and I would like to be cared for.
All right, so how do we do this on the federal level? I know McCain's proposing more of a private process, and Obama is more of a universal health care. Where do you fall down in that?
Again, I think we have to recognize a couple things. If we give everybody the equivalent of a Blue Cross Blue Shield policy, we're going to have to raise taxes tremendously. I mean,
So that's not the most efficient and effective way, in your opinion?
well, it may be the most efficient and effective way, but I can tell you there's going to be a tremendous amount of pushback because you're going to effectively have to tax businesses or individuals to pay for it. And when you do that, there's going to be some loss of jobs. There's going to be people who don't want to pay higher taxes. So there's going to have to be some alternatives. Again, if we change the tax code so that the folks who are better off, who are getting the most subsidies for their health insurance premium, change that benefit so it benefits the people who are middle class, you begin to relieve the pressure. There's not as much inflation of insurance premiums. It becomes more affordable. Folks are more likely to opt to get that insurance premium.
And they've got choice, I guess.
And they've got choice, and that removes folks from the roles of the uninsured. So you begin the process, they say, incrementally. You don't try and do everything at once, but rather step by step. You put something in, you see how the market responds to it, you put in something else.
You can monitor it and be flexible
Exactly.
to adjust. Let's talk about the war. What is your stance on the war?
Clearly, we want our soldiers home as quickly as possible, but not a moment too soon. That's
the bottom line.
It's a bottom line. And the surge has worked. And the surge has stabilized Iraq, and we have to realize that to stabilize Iraq is to stabilize Israel, is to stabilize the oil-producing states that are helping address our high gasoline prices. And it also promotes democratic change in Iran, which doesn't like us now, but there's lots of people in Iran who want democracy there. And so having a stable Iraq makes that more likely.
Well, and the bottom line is we're concerned about $4 gas. If we pulled out now without there being sufficient protection, we'd have way higher gas prices because Iran would move in.
They would move in. Now, the important thing to realize as well that oil production in Iraq has begun to increase. And so as oil production increases, one, they get more revenue, which means we're spending less money there. Secondly, it also works to stabilize world oil prices. And so it's kind of a long-term strategy.
I think long-term is the key
Yes.
word here. None of these problems are going away tomorrow, are they?
And a simple solution is not there.
It's taken years and years to get where we are, and it's going to take years and years to get out of these holes.
Yes, I agree.
Let's talk about the state legislative session that just ended. A lot of good things. I know a big issue was legislators' pay raise, and as I understand it, you voted against.
I did vote against the legislative pay raise. Frankly, there's good arguments for and there's good arguments against. And people who are upset will say oftentimes, I think there should be something done, but the way it was done was incorrect. That's true. Everybody would say in retrospect, it looked like the old Louisiana legislature as opposed to the new one we hope we have.
It was baffling, frankly.
It was.
I'm amazed.
And when I spoke against it, I spoke in saying, listen, whatever the arguments for or against, it's created a perception that the people were left out and their voices are not being heard. And it's important in this legislature that the people know that they're being heard.